all sorts of miracles happened like an hour ago, right? Bread became God, and the Steelers blocked an extra point. And they blocked the Bengals missed a field goal. No, I don't want to ruin the game for you. It was crazy. I was listening to the end of it on the way out here, and I counted 6 different times when the announcers were like, and that was a miraculous play. A miracle just happened. That was miraculous. I was like, wow, we're talking about miracles tonight. And these guys are all over it. Right? So we're talking miracles tonight, miracles of Jesus specifically. We're going to be digging into miracles at Upper Room all year, or at least all semester. Perhaps it's all year. I forget what Holly said. But most often, God works through the natural world and the natural means of the way the world operates, right? He set up the laws of physics. He kind of likes them, right? He prefers to work that way. Sometimes he does something outside the realm of the physical world or physical laws, and that's typically what we call a miracle, right? So like Deontay Johnson one-handing a ball on the sideline while he's dragging his toes is impressive. It's not actually miraculous. Right? He didn't bend the law. Well, you might say he bent the laws of physics because he's jumping this way and he's bending that way, and somehow he kept it in bounds. But it's not actually a miracle. Right? A miracle is something a little bit more than that bends the laws of physics. It defies explanation, if you will. And believe it or not, miracles happen every day. There's like simpler miracles, and then there's like the big blow your mind miracles, right? There's simple miracles that sometimes you can explain a bit of the rationale behind it, right? Like, Holly mentioned we just had our 6th daughter. Childbirth is a miracle. I can explain to you the physics and the biology behind it, right? Like the baby secretes a hormone that starts the whole process, then the mom's uterus starts contracting and all that sort of stuff. Science should never suck the life out of the miraculous. Don't ever just hide behind the science. Let the science help you appreciate the miracles around you sometimes, right? But that's like it's a big miracle because it's a kid, right? But that's a small miracle because we can explain kind of how it works, right? There's bigger miracles where you can't explain it. And that's the key to remember when we're talking about miracles, is they defy the laws of physics, which means when you hear some smart person out there try to tell you science has disproven miracles, you can tell that smart person, you're an idiot. Science can't make a claim about a miracle because a miracle is outside of science. It's something that defies the laws of science. So you can't refute it with science, right? So anyways, miracles defy the laws of natural physics, right? The natural laws of the universe. But these sorts of things happen all the time. If you talk to like doctors, nurses, anyone who spends any time around a hospital, most of them can tell you sometime when an aggressive form of cancer just disappeared and they can't say why. Most of them can tell you when they saw someone with crippling arthritis in their knee who shouldn't be able to walk anymore, all of a sudden can walk, and they can't tell you why. It wasn't anything that they did or any biological process that played out that they know how to explain, right? And these are smart people. Miracles happen all the time. This is the kind of stuff that Jesus did all the time throughout his earthly life. Right? So there's these kind of medical miracles, and then there's my favorite kind of miracles that are out there, the church-approved miracles. On the surface of it, the church-approved miracles are the ones that most of us are like, yeah, of course the church is going to say St. Padre Pio did a miracle, right? It's in our best interest to say that was miraculous, because then people are going to want to join the church. They're going to go to this place and, I don't know, spend money in the gift shop or whatever. Church-approved miracles are the most impressive ones because the church is the biggest skeptic when it comes to miracles. If you go to your parish priest and say, you think you saw the host bleed at Mass today, he's going to be like, shh, be quiet, keep that to yourself, like, don't say that to anybody. Right? The church's first move on a miracle is, that did not happen. And you can see this play out through history, right? In the early 1900s, 3 kids in Fatima, Portugal, claimed this woman appeared on a bush in front of them and said she was Mary. And the one who was primarily persecuting them, there was the city leadership, but it was the parish priest who was like, just say you made it up. Just tell them it's a lie. This didn't really happen. The church's first move with the miraculous is to say, no, that didn't happen. So when the church approves a miracle, you know, like, holy cow, something really impressive happened here. So every saint, every modern saint at least you can think of, modern blesseds in the church, there's at least 1, sometimes 2 or more miracles associated with them. That the church said, something weird happened here, we're getting an outside observer, we're going to have you guys look at it and tell us what happened. And when the outside observer is like, I have no idea how to explain this, then the church is like, all right, I guess it's a miracle. So when you want to look at the life of like Padre Pio, at least twice, with him a lot more, something really crazy happened that really smart people cannot explain, and it just blew their minds. That's the kind of thing that Jesus did like all the time. So the gospel writers, there's 4 gospel writers. We all know them, right? Anybody shout out a gospel? Luke, that's one of them. 3 more. Mark, that's one of them. 2 more. Matthew, 1 more. John, there we go. We got them all. Good job, guys. It's day 1. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? These guys together tell us about the life of Jesus, and they record 37 detailed miracles of Jesus. At least 37. There's debates about, was this 1 miracle or was this 2, right? Like walking on water. Was the miracle that the water didn't, the surface tension of the water wasn't broken, or was the miracle that he could walk while doing it? I don't know, right? When he feeds 5,000 people, is that 1 miracle or is it 5,000? Right? So scholars will debate the number, but it's around 37 detailed miracles in the Gospels that Jesus did. So over a 3-year ministry, I'm going to throw some stats at you real quick. Over a 3-year public ministry for Jesus, that's a miracle, a detailed miracle at least once every month. That's impressive work. But that's completely discounting the non-detailed miracles. The times where it's like, yeah, Jesus rolled into town and he did this thing and a bunch of people came and he healed them all. That's not counted in the 37. How many people were there? We don't know. How many miracles is that? We don't know. It's a lot. But check this out. This is one of my favorite lines in any one of these 4 Gospels. It's the very last line of the Gospel of John. It's John 21, verse 25. John says this. But there are also many other things which Jesus did. Were every one of them to be written, I suppose the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. So at the end of the Gospel writers giving us these 37 detailed miracles, John's got to put in this little gloss that's like, yeah, but guys, there was a lot more that we don't have time and paper and ink to write down. Like the dude was just popping off miracles like it was his job. In fact, it was his job, right? So Jesus performs all these miracles. We're going to talk about why he's doing this stuff in a minute. But I want to dig into these 37 a little bit, right? Some of these things are these bizarre public miracles, and some of them are weirder private things. I don't know. I'm going to throw this out to you guys. What are some of the miracles of Jesus that you could think of? Any one of them? Like, wait, Jesus performed miracles? We got the 4 Gospels. We can get some miracles here, right? Anybody think of a time when Jesus healed somebody? I see a tentative hand. Go for it. You got this.
Healing the sick.
Yeah, healing the sick, like all the time. That was his most common type of miracle, yeah? Yes, water into wine. Not just a little bit, but a whole lot of wine. Yeah. Yeah, made the blind see. Most often when he makes the blind see, he's just like, yeah, dude, be healed. And boom, he's like, why can I see all of a sudden? One of my favorite miracles of Jesus, I'm going to read it to you because it's weird. One of my favorite miracles of Jesus is when he's healing a blind dude. And it's in Mark chapter 8, verses 22 to 26. And it goes like this. They, the apostles, right, they came to Bethsaida up northern Israel along the Sea of Galilee. And some people brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. And so Jesus took the blind, and normally Jesus says, all right, be healed. Here's what Jesus does here. So Jesus took the blind man by the hand, led him out of the village, and when he had spit on his eyes, did you hear that? When Jesus spit on the dude's eyes, then he laid his hands on him and he said to him, do you see anything? And the guy looked up and said, I see men, but they look like trees walking. He's been blind since birth. How does he know what trees look like when they're walking? Right? All right, so he's like, I see trees, but they look like they're walking. Then Jesus lays his hands on him a second time, and he looked intently and was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Why did Jesus spit on this guy's face? He's actually doing, I'll answer the question so I'm not just leaving you in suspense. Jesus is hearkening back to when God creates the world, and he makes clay and he molds man. Right? And he forms and he breathes his own life force into him. When Jesus spits on this guy's eye and makes mud, he's kind of hearkening back to that. He's like, I'm making you whole again, just like I made you at the beginning. So he's not just being gross for the sake of being gross. He's being gross to make a theological point. But it's a bizarre story. Could you imagine if you're this blind dude? Like, yeah, I want my sight back, but this is weird. This isn't the way I thought this was going to happen. So yeah, we got healing the blind. Anybody think of any other miracles? Water turning to wine is a fun one because they got these giant jugs of water filled to the brim, and the only people who know what's going on are the servants at this wedding party. Because Mary goes and tells Jesus they're out of wine, and Jesus is like, so what? And Mary goes and tells the help, just do whatever he tells you, even if it's nuts. And Jesus is like, take these jugs and fill them with water. And they're like, okay. And he's like, all right, go serve it. And they're like, what? And when they take it out, it's wine. They're the only people that would have been around to see it happen, and they're just like, this is nuts. Right? So when Jesus does this kind of stuff, it's not just like a magic trick, right? He's not David Blaine or David Copperfield or David, all magicians are David, I guess, anymore, right? This isn't like the stuff that you see on, does anybody watch Magic for Humans on Netflix? My family loves it. It's a crazy, awesome show. Fun stuff. But that's not what Jesus is doing. He's not doing a parlor trick, right? He's doing real legitimate miracles. Crazy stuff that people could not explain. People today couldn't explain this either, right? I'll give you one more of Jesus' weird miracles. This is one of my favorites too, because I like to point out Jesus' miracles also aren't these they're not entertainment, they're not parlor tricks, they're not showmanship. He also doesn't do them for his own benefit, except arguably in this one case. This is in Matthew chapter 17. It says this: when they came to Capernaum, Jesus and his followers, the collectors of the half-shekel tax at the temple went up to Peter and said, "Does your teacher pay the tax? Does Jesus pay his taxes?" And Peter says, "Yeah." And then when he came home, Jesus spoke to him first, and Jesus said, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take toll and tribute? From their sons or from others?" So Jesus is trying to make a point about paying temple taxes. When Peter says from others, Jesus says to him, "Then the sons are free. However, not to give any offense to them," this is where the miracle comes in. He says, "Go down to the sea, cast a hook into the water, take the first fish that comes out, and when you open its mouth, you'll find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for yourself and for me." Did you catch the miracle? They're arguing about taxes and all this sort of stuff, and Jesus is like, "All right, just go down to the pond, catch a fish. Your tax and my tax are in the fish's mouth. Go pay the temple tax for us." So every now and then, Jesus will pay your taxes for you when he's performing miracles, right? Only one time. So these miracles sometimes they're interesting, sometimes they're bizarre, right? And they can be categorized into roughly three types of miracles, right? There's these healing miracles that we all referenced already, right? Healing the sick, healing a paralytic, healing a blind man. He heals blind men like all over the place. There must have been 1 million blind people in Israel in the time of Jesus. So there's these healing miracles, and that's most of Jesus' miracles are healing people. Healing also includes exorcisms, right? Where he casts evil spirits out of people in sometimes bizarre ways. So there's healing miracles. There's miracles that show power over nature, right? So like Jesus calms a storm. I don't know the last time you tried to stop a storm. It's kind of hard. Jesus did it. Jesus walks on water, right? Jesus multiplies loaves and fish. Jesus changes water into wine. Nature miracles, where Jesus has power over the elements of nature. And then there's the most bizarre subset of Jesus' miracles. It only happens 3 or 4 times, if you want to count what he did on himself, is raising the dead to life. He did it 3 different times in the Gospels. He raises a little girl from death. He raises the widow at Nain's son from death, and he raises his buddy Lazarus from the dead. And then just to show off, he does it to himself too. Right? These are people who were dead. They were buried. The funeral was over. And he brought them back to life, especially in the case of Lazarus. Right? Crazy, crazy stuff. What in the world is Jesus doing with this stuff? Well, I guess before we get into what in the world is Jesus doing with this stuff, just to point out one thing. There's these 37 detailed miracles in the Gospels, right? They're not all in all 4 Gospels. In fact, outside of Jesus rising from the dead, there's only one miracle that shows up in all 4 Gospels. Can anybody guess what it is? No? Yeah, we had trouble naming miracles, right? We're not going to list it. It's when Jesus fed the 5,000. Not to be confused with when he fed the 4,000, because he did that also. That's recorded in Matthew and Mark. But when he feeds 5,000 people, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all thought they should record it in the Gospels, which is pretty impressive, right? They were shocked when they saw this thing happen. Why do I want to say that's pretty impressive? Because there's a ton of skeptics out there, maybe you guys are them sometimes too, where you're like, I could explain that. Like, people brought Kit Kats and Hershey bars out of their pockets, and it was just you may have heard a homily about this sometimes, right? It was just a message in sharing. It wasn't really a miracle. This is the only one that all 4 of them recorded. This impressed them. If it was as simple as pulling gum and Tic Tacs out of your purse, I don't think anybody would have been impressed, right? Usually when you want to try to explain away Jesus' miracles as not miraculous, you have to believe a whole lot of garbage to buy it, right? Jesus walking on water. Crazy miracle. I think the bigger miracle might be that Peter actually walked on water with him. We usually focus on the fact that Peter fell because he started looking at the wind and the waves and the water and took his eyes off Jesus, but we miss that for like a couple of seconds, Peter walked on water. He's not even God. But he walked on water. So people try to explain away walking on water, and they'll say, yeah, on the Sea of Galilee, or the Dead Sea, you get these salt deposits that crystallize on the top of the water, and Jesus could have balanced on those, and he was walking on water. All right, first of all, he didn't walk on water on the Dead Sea. It was the Sea of Galilee. Second of all, half of his apostles are fishermen who work day in and day out on water. If this was something that anybody could have done, they wouldn't have been impressed. Right? So to try to explain away the miracle, sometimes you have to believe a lot more baloney than to just believe that the miracle happened. So Jesus does all these crazy, awesome things. He's popping them off at least one a month, probably more often because John's like, we couldn't record all of it for you. Why? What is he doing with these miracles? What is the whole point of these miracles of Jesus? It's really three things. I guess you could say it's two-ish things. I'm going to say it's three. The first one is he's trying to show us God is real and Jesus is God. Right? He's the one doing these things. His biggest miracle was to call his own shot. You guys are going to kill me, and 3 days later I'm coming back. Right? If he can do that and he claims to be God, he must be God. Right? So why does Jesus perform these miracles? Because he wants us to know that God is real. God is not this like pie in the sky, creates the world, winds it up and lets it go and just steps back and watches it from a distance. Right? God isn't the distant Father. God wants to get in the muck and the dirt and the grime of your life. That's what the sacraments are all about, right? You guys just received God into your esophagus. He's now going through your digestive tract right now. That's weird and crazy and cool all at the same time, right? That's the God that we believe in. He wants to be active in your life. And so Jesus performs these miracles, not all the time, right? Jesus probably doesn't show up in your life and give you the gift of tongues when you have your Spanish test. It'd be a great time for a miracle, right? But he does work these miracles in the Gospels and today to try to show us, like, God is real. Today, there are hosts, consecrated hosts that bleed. And the church is the biggest skeptic in the world. The church is like, all right, I'm going to take this host, I'm going to give it to a scientist. You tell me, what is this joke? And they're like, we don't know what to tell you, but it's living heart tissue. This kind of stuff happens not every day, but more often than you'd probably be comfortable realizing, right? So Jesus performs miracles to try to show us God is real and I'm him, not me, but Jesus is God, right? So God is real enough to control the forces of nature. He's real enough to tell us about himself and why he made us. He's real enough to handle all of your hurts and your fears and your anxieties. That's the primary reason that Jesus does miracles. The secondary reason Jesus performs miracles is he wants to show us not that God exists, not just that God exists and just that Jesus is God, but also that this God who exists, who is Jesus, actually loves you and cares about you and cares about people, right? This is why he goes around healing people constantly, because he cares about your concerns. Not in every circumstance is God going to take the problem away, but sometimes, yeah, he does. But every time he's with you in it. And that's what's so cool about Jesus. He's not just like, you know, the ice cream man who shows up in the summer when you're hot and you want a cool treat and gives you ice cream. Jesus is like the ice cream man that leaves the truck behind and sits down with you and asks you about your day and goes through your day with you. Right? He wants to be with you in that muck and the dirt and the grime of life. He loves you, right? He loves you enough to show up in these unexpected ways, big miracles and small miracles that happen every day, and we try to explain them away sometimes, right? He loves you enough to give you real freedom and to let you actually reject him and to tell him, I don't believe your miracles. I think they're a joke. I think it's a trick. I haven't figured it out yet, but I don't believe you. I don't trust you, right? That was the Pharisees' response all the time. Could you imagine being the Pharisees see dead people come back to life, blind guys see all of a sudden, paralytics pick up their mat and walk, bread multiply out of nowhere, and they're like, yeah, we need to kill this guy. Often enough, that's our response too when Jesus performs a miracle in our life. We want to explain it away. It wasn't a miracle, it was a coincidence, it wasn't that impressive, right? So Jesus performs these miracles to try to show us that God actually loves us enough to even let us reject him, and he loves us enough to die for us. And he also performs these miracles to show us that God wants to heal us and restore us, sometimes in miraculous ways, sometimes in ways that we're not fully going to understand right now. But that's what God is all about. That's his whole gimmick, right? His whole shtick is bringing healing and restoration to us, right? He wants to heal us from our sin primarily, heal us from our disbelief, heal us from our doubts. That's why Jesus performed miracles 2,000 years ago and why he still performs them now, which is pretty awesome. So I hope you're not going to be skeptical enough, like some of these folks in the Gospels, to just explain away these miracles. Right? We're going to dig into some more of Jesus' miracles throughout the course of this year in the upper room. But look for the miracles in your own life, too, and don't explain them away. Look at them. You know what the number one response to Jesus' miracles in the Gospels is? It's not belief. It's shock and fear. Because when you see a dead person come out of her tomb, that's alarming. When you see a paraplegic stand up and walk, that's kind of scary because that means this guy might actually be God, which means I might have to actually take seriously what he said, which means I might actually have to change my life. And that's terrifying. So the most common response to Jesus' miracles is fear and anger and frustration. So hopefully that's not your response to Jesus, right? So tonight, when we go into our small groups, I want to encourage you guys to talk a little bit about, like, do you have a favorite miracle of Jesus or an interesting miracle of Jesus, and what do you find interesting about it? And it doesn't have to be like a theological answer, like, oh, it's interesting that, Jesus had them cast that net in and they caught 53 fish, and that was the number of nations that they knew about in the world, right? Not a theological answer. I think it's cool that Jesus spit on that guy's face. Like, why did he choose to heal him that way? I don't know, but it's weird and it's cool and I like it, right? So what do you like about some of these miracles of Jesus? What miracle do you want Jesus to perform in your own life? Like, do you want him to heal your family? Do you want him to heal your parents' marriage? Do you want him to heal you of your anxiety, of your ADD, of your depression? Like, where do you want Jesus to show up in your life? And what scares you about his miracles? Because if he did show up in your life, what would that mean? So a couple little food for thought as you go into your small groups. So before we go into small groups, what do you do in small group? How do you make small groups work? Guys, I've been doing ministry for 15 years, and I've seen lots of beautiful small groups, and I've seen lots of horrible small groups. What I can tell you is you want the beautiful ones, right? Those are the fun ones. There have been plenty of times where we've done sessions with the upper room, or Edge is what we do at St. Luke the Evangelist Parish, St. John and Paul Church down the road, right? We've come to the end of the Edge year, and we've got boys and girls crying because they don't want this to end, because they want this regular time to share with their small groups, which is pretty cool. So the million-dollar question is, what did they do? Because there's unfortunately plenty of times where you get to the end of the year and you're like, I'm so glad that's done. That was a waste of my time, right? What's the difference between the waste of time and the tearful guys, ugly crying that they don't get to hang out with each other and share their lives with each other? What I've discovered is it's really like three things, right? First thing you want to do in your small group is show respect. Right? Show respect to your small group leader. Show respect to the other kids in your small group. What does respect look like? Don't goof off when you're in small group. Try to stay on topic. Listen to other people. Actually share, participate in the process. Respect the process. Try it out. It's awkward sometimes. Sometimes we ask you a question in small group and you're like, I don't have an answer to that. So find a respectful way to say, I don't really have an answer to that, but try to start giving it some sort of answer, right? Not all of us are like verbal processors. So I'm an introvert by nature, believe it or not. When someone asks me a question in a small group, I need to sit and think with it for a minute or two. So that's okay. So if you need to pause for a minute and ask someone else to answer the question first, that's fine. But give it a go. Try to come up with it. Don't take the easy way out and just go, I don't know. I don't have anything. Because that's when your small group is lame. Right? So contribute something to it. Show respect for the process. Number 2, keep confidence in your small group. Because everyone else in your small group is feeling awkward too. They're not quite sure if this is the right answer. Am I saying this the right way? They're trying to be vulnerable and share something. So don't be a jerk and go around telling everybody, you should have heard what he said when we asked this question. He was just fumbling all over himself. He sounded ridiculous. Keep the confidence in your small group. Nobody else needs to hear what you heard, what you talked about in your small group. Just keep it there, right? That's part of showing respect. So show respect, keep the confidence, and the third and final thing is be open, right? Be open, share an honest answer. But also be open to hearing something from someone else. Be open to learning from someone else. Because truthfully, that is the game changer. That's what most people love about the small groups, is they hear something not from me or not from Don. And, Don has lots of good stuff to say. But they hear stuff from their peers, right? And they're like, that's what I liked about the small group time, was hearing someone my age, my friend, tell me this is how God showed up in my life in an awkwardly worded way. Right? So that's what I encourage you guys to try to do in the small groups. Respect the process, respect the people in the group. Right, and actually participate in it. Keep the confidence. Don't go out sharing with everybody else what's going on in your small group. And be open. Actually share something and be open to hearing something from somebody else. So if you do those 3 things, it could be a very promising experience for you. So give it a try. So again, as you're in these small groups, I want you to try to talk about, do you have a favorite miracle or an interesting miracle? What do you find interesting about it? And it's okay if it's as weird as Jesus spitting on somebody's face. What miracle do you want God to work in your own life? And what scares you about Jesus' miracles? About him actually showing up? Sound good? Make sense? We know what we're doing? All right. You guys can head off to your small groups.